Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Briscoe, the owner and clinic director of East Texas Institute of Natural Healing. And today I want to talk to you about the liver. Now, the liver is the largest and heaviest organ in the body, and it has over 500 functions. So it's responsible for storing sugar, vitamins, and minerals. It helps regulate blood sugar levels by releasing sugar storages. It also produces bile, which is important for the digestion of fats. It is involved with metabolizing histamine in the body and other metabolic reactions. It's also, and this is something a lot of people don't realize, is that it makes most of the cholesterol in your blood. Now, the liver acts like the oil filter in your car, and so it's going to help to detoxify and clean your blood. Now, there's over 600 hormones in the body, and several of those hormones are made by the liver. Now, when it comes to, when we're talking specifically about weight loss, burning fat, losing that belly that you want to lose, that we have to focus on the liver. And in his book, The 7 Principles of Fat Burning, Dr. Eric Berg really hits home with that fact that the liver is crucial in being able to lose weight. Okay, so all 6 fat-burning hormones need a good, healthy, clean, functioning liver in order to work. So we want to take this vital organ and we want to nourish it, we want to feed it, we want to protect it with foods. Okay? So foods that are high in antioxidants, foods that are going to support the detoxification processes of the liver. So we're going to start off with the cruciferous vegetables. Now that's things like broccoli, cauliflower. So I'm standing here in front of this produce. So we have things like the broccoli over here, cauliflower is a little further down. So we also want to look at things like that is right behind me. The kale, which is up in this area here. The mustard greens, collard greens, turnip greens, all these green leafy lettuces, right, or lettuce type veggies right here. All right, things like radishes over here. Okay, bok choy, different cabbages like you're seeing here. These are all the cruciferous veggies. Now these foods are very high in antioxidants. They contain sulfur-based compounds, which is very crucial for detoxifying the liver. But they contain something called indole-3 carbinol and other types of chemicals that are very, very important for the liver health. Now these things are going to be also anti-cancer and anti-estrogen, which is real important for the liver. The next thing we want to talk about are these roots here, or these bulb types of vegetables, which are the onions and the garlic. And these things have sulfur-based compounds, and they are very high in vitamins and minerals, but they're also high in a substance called glutathione, which is an amino acid that is necessary for the production of bile by the liver. So we want to move on to things like eggs. And we all know what eggs are. So they contain sulfur-based compounds, but they also contain this glutathione. And they also contain something called lecithin, which, believe it or not, is the antidote to cholesterol problems. So a lot of people want to avoid eating eggs because of cholesterol. Not a good idea. It does contain the lecithin that helps to reduce that cholesterol. So since we're on the topic of glutathione, this is a substance, an amino acid, or something that is produced by the body from several different amino acids. And it's a sulfur-based, it comes from sulfur-based foods, like we talked about, the eggs, onions, garlic powder, things of that nature. But also it comes from other foods like asparagus, broccoli, avocado, and spinach. And this is a substance that's very, very important in order for the liver to do its detoxification processes. So we want to move on to things that contain selenium. Now, selenium is a mineral, and it's an antioxidant. And this mineral is necessary not only for detoxifying the liver, the detoxification pathways, but also for the conversion of the inactive thyroid hormone. And all that conversion process takes place in the liver. In order to do that, you've got to have that selenium is very, very important for that conversion process. But you want to have it in a whole food form. So what are food sources that are high in the selenium? Well, the highest food source of selenium is Brazil nuts, but also other nuts like walnuts, lean meats and organ meats, chicken, seafood, mushrooms, and the garlic and onions, of course. The next thing we want to move on to are apples. Apples are very, very important in doing detoxification stuff. Now, they have an indirect on the liver because the fiber that's contained in these apples comes from a substance called pectin. And what pectin is, it's not only it is a prebiotic for probiotics. And what I mean is that it's the food for the good, cool, healthy bacteria in your gut. But the pectin also acts as a natural chelating agent. And what I mean by that is that pectin is going to grab those toxins and grab those heavy metals in your bowel and pull them out when you go to the bathroom. So very, very important, because this will take the stress off of the liver. Now, the next food that we have are these things called beets, which not a whole lot of people eat, okay, but it's very, very important. And you want to be able to eat the root, but also the leaves. Very good in your salad. Okay, so but these beets are high in beta-carotene, high in other substances, other carotenoids, but also other phytochemicals called flavonoids. And all of these substances in those beets and the beet leaves help to decrease the free radicals damage in the liver, but they also contain pectin like the apples do. And they also are responsible for improving bile production and bile flow, which is very, very important in digestion, but also liver detoxification. The next thing we want to do is be looking at eating these things here, these roots, carrots. These are very important because obviously they're high antioxidants, but they also have the pectin again. And as Dr. Bob DeMario, as he says, Dr. Bob's ABCs, and he's very, very keen on getting the ABCs every day, the apples, beets, and carrots every day for cleaning the liver, lowering cholesterol, good heart health, so on and so forth. All right, so we want to also eat foods that are high in food sources of vitamins B, C, and E. Now, a lot of the foods I just mentioned to you are high in those vitamins, but other things are like the peppers, red and yellow bell peppers, other peppers, and other sort of foods too that are high in these vitamins. Now, we just spoke about how we want to take in all these good things, but we also want to avoid the bad things. So you want to avoid things like alcohol, tobacco products, caffeine, foods that are high in fat, okay, high fat, high saturated fat foods, fried foods, things of that nature. Now, we need saturated fat, but we don't want to eat high amounts of that because that high fat diet really stresses the liver. Definitely you want to avoid the fake fats, things like trans fats, hydrogenated oils, these butter spreads like margarine, okay? Other things as far as high protein diets, you want to really avoid those because that stresses the liver. You want to eat an adequate protein diet, not a high protein diet. And then this is something very important, is overcooking our foods. Anytime we overcook our foods, then we're killing the nutrients, we're killing the enzymes in those foods. And when we do that, those foods are no longer alive, and it's a lot harder for your body to digest because you don't have those enzymes in the foods to help aid digestion. So that puts a tremendous amount of stress on the liver. All right, so I hope this information is helpful. So look, God was very gracious when He created you and everything else. So He gave you a body that has a built-in wisdom, and it knows what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Your body is a self-healing organism when you give it the opportunity. That's the key factor, when you give it the right opportunity. So if we aren't being good stewards to this miracle, then obesity and other symptoms and conditions are the results of that. And as Dr. Bernie Siegel says, there are no incurable diseases, only incurable people. So keep that in mind. So I have a challenge for you. Dare to become the greatest version of yourself. Thank you. God bless.